Very good. Good evening and welcome to the Red Hook Town Board meeting of Wednesday, August 28th, 2024. Would you be kind enough to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay, very good. For the folks at home, if you'd be kind enough to pan to the screen so they can see the items we'll be discussing. We have extension of moratorium hardship waivers, continuations, and we will be tackling those first up. We have just a very brief discussion because we don't yet have a draft of the sewer district use law, which obviously will be necessary as we are now forming a sewer district. A resolution authorizing a submission of an application for a Greenway grant design of the Sawkill pedestrian bridge, and this relates to the bridge that would connect the Cookingham Farm Trails to our recreational park. We are approving an addendum to an engineering contract with the Aspinwall Bridge. There's a request from Bard College for a 30-day waiver liquor license for Parkhurst. There's a resolution to go out to bid on St. Margaret's accessibility improvements. Some work related to the entrances there, much of it grant funded. And then the Water District has two requests that we go out to get proposals for inspection of the water tank, and also to tackle their requested increase in the water rates. As we know, they've asked for a 5% increase for a 5-year period, and in order to maintain healthy reserves so that they can apply those to, for example, repainting the water tank. Then we have a brief reorganization, manning somebody to a committee. We have our department board and committee reports. And then we have, we'll be going into attorney-client executive session to discuss a real estate matter under negotiation, the public disclosure of which could materially affect the price, and that relates to the house parcel on Cookingham East. So we may take action on that after coming out of executive session. So we will get to our public hearing in just a moment. We do have some announcements. Abrams Park, as you know, part of the wonderful Cookingham project is to extend the path to nowhere. It's now going to be a wonderful trail system connecting over to Rec Park, Abrams Park Community Survey, so they are looking for ideas on the existing parklands, the Richard Abrahams, I should pronounce it correctly, park, and there is the link if you'd like to participate, as did I, in the survey. Our Congressman Pat Ryan has a Social Security Medicare CARES event that's coming up next Thursday at the Red Hook Firehouse, 42 Firehouse Lane, right around the corner. That's from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Repair Cafe is Saturday, September 7th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's at the Red Hook Community Center. And once again, we want to thank all our volunteers that are fixing all of these items, lamps, bikes, digital devices, chairs, so on and so forth. It's such a great event done on a quarterly basis. And it's all free. Hardscrabble, we'd like to remind folks that it's that season again. Hardscrabble is September 14th. It takes place in the village parking lot mostly, and around the village streets. And that's 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Musical acts have already been decided upon. You can go to their site. Do they have it on this flyer? They don't. I know they have a Facebook page, but Google Hardscrabble Day, Village of Red Hook, and you'll get more information. Tivoli Fire Department is having their annual chicken barbecue. That's September 22nd. And there is the Traveling Vietnam Wall and Cost of Freedom Tribute. It is a mobile exhibit. It is traveling around. It will be in Wappingers Falls at Bowdoin Park on from 9 to 11 on September 18th through 22nd. So if you'd like to join or volunteer, there's the email address for veterans at dutchessnewyork.gov. The Red Hook Community Center also has their annual gala coming up later in September 28th. It's their big fundraising effort. As you know, the town supports programming over at the Community Center for folks of all ages. Rebuilding Together will be doing a mailing on this. This is a free home repair program by this organization. They're looking for applicants. If you know somebody who could benefit from repairs to their home, please do get in touch with either us at Town Hall or with Rebuilding Together directly. And there is the website is rthudsonvalley.org. All of this information is still available on the website. Very good. Those are all the announcements I have. Does anybody else have any? Before we start our public hearings, we are a couple minutes late for that. Public comments. Would anybody like to make any public comments? Kenny, if you'd be kind enough, just state your name. We all know your name, but maybe somebody watching doesn't.
Ken from Miglarelli Farm. Again, speaking about Cookenham West, I went through the easements twice, and there was one section I was unclear about with chemicals, pesticides. And I contacted DLC to discuss that, and they were unclear. Spoke to two people from DLC, and they said, well, Cena Cutson was in charge of that with the town. Then I spoke to Cena Cutson, and they were like, well, DLC was in charge of that. And then I spoke to Robert earlier today, and it sounds like it's a work in progress, which I'm glad to hear that it's not finalized, because what I read seemed like it was finalized. And so it seemed like I like to call them crop protectants, you know, it sounds a lot nicer, and that it was only going to be on one part of the agricultural support area, which is like 2.5 acres, and the farm area is like 52 acres. So it sounded like, you know, crop protectants were going to be allowed on the farm area. And when I was with Lindsay 2-3 weeks ago at a farm function, and she asked me if I was going to bid on Cookenham West, and that's when I mentioned about did she see the fence? And she hadn't. And then I said, I heard through the grapevines that, you know, I'm going to use the word pesticides with her, because I said it sounded like pesticides were not going to be allowed on the farm area. And she said to me, we use pesticides. And I said, I know you use pesticides, but 95% of people don't realize that organic farmers use pesticides. I mean, it's a different classification of pesticides, and we use the same classification. So it's a little upsetting that that's the way it's going. So now not only eliminating conventional farmers or IPM, which we use that practice, or you're eliminating organic farmers also. So it's a little upsetting that the easement is going to go in that direction. And when you read the easement, it talks about the continuation of agriculture. And just like the easement that I deal with down at the Rhinebeck stand by the bridge approach, throughout that easement, it talks about the continuation of agriculture. But the easement doesn't provide the continuation of agriculture with the way it makes the ruling. So it's a deterrent to continue, so it contradicts each other in the easement. It'll contradict those two words. So, it's a little upsetting, but I'm glad that I'm in conversation with DLC. But the upsetting thing is, with the trail the way it is now, instead of the continuation of agriculture, the trail is going to dictate what agriculture is going to happen there, which it should have never came about. The fence, I just found out today, between the site work and the drainage and the fence, it was over $300,000, which is like crazy to me that that kind of money was spent there. So that's about all I'm going to say. I was going to say a lot more, but I'm going to be light today. But I'll be on this, and I don't know what else to say because of that trail. It's going to be a deterrent to agriculture. So maybe they need to take out continuation of agriculture in the wording. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else like to make some public comments? Okay. Hearing none, let's move into our continuation of the public hearing. Deanna, would you be kind enough to read the continuation notice, please?
Notice of continued public hearing, moratorium hardship waivers, local law 1 of 2024. Please take notice that a series of concurrent public hearings, which were previously scheduled for July 9th, 2024, continued to August 13th, 2024, are continued and will be held by the Town Board of the Town of Red Hook on Wednesday, August 28th, 2024 at 7:35 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter comes before the board at the Town Hall, 7340 South Broadway, Red Hook, New York, to hear all interested persons on the applications received on the dates set forth below from the applicants set forth below for a hardship waiver of the provisions of local law number 1 of 2024 entitled A Local Law Placing a Moratorium on Applications in the TNDCC Subdistrict, on applications for subdivision in the AB District, and on applications affecting wetlands, adopted March 27, 2024. The requests for waiver concern the following. Owner, Red Hook Land Corp. LLC by Bob Ross, 5 Old Farm Road, 1.955 acres. Dean Kent, 4 April 11, 2024, 171 Feller Newmark Road, 3.04 acres. Please take further notice that copies of said proposed waiver applications are available for review at the Town Hall, Red Hook, New York. All interested persons will be given an opportunity to be heard in person or by directing comments in writing to the Town Board. All reasonable accommodations will be made for persons with disabilities. In such case, please notify the town clerk in advance at the above address or by phone so that arrangements can be made. By order of the Town Board of the Town of Red Hook, dated August 13, 2024, Deanna Cochran, Town Clerk, Town of Red Hook.
Thank you very much, Deanna. And I would note copies of the applications and the related plans are available in the town clerk's office. The Red Hook Land Corp. LLC, the most recent submission was July 22nd. that should probably be reflected in our resolution later this evening. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to open the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Is there anybody who would like to speak on this matter? Okay. Bob Ross was in just a little earlier, and we did speak on the phone. Anyone else? No? Okay. At this time, I would like to just reference, we did receive comments from the engineer for the town. It's been reviewed by both applications by our CEO for completeness, and they have looked at the mapped wetlands, and there's a kind of a lengthy conversation about wetlands, aren't we, later tonight, Bill, now that we've seen the DEC information from the other day. Okay, this time I think we can go ahead and entertain a motion to close the public hearings. Who would like to make that motion? Thank you, Julia. Second?
I do have a question, so I don't,
Before you, okay?
if the applicants had been here, then I wanted to ask them.
Oh, sure. Okay.
But, so I don't know if we want to wait and just discuss it as part of the review of the resolution
Okay.
or not.
Okay. Well, they're not going to be here tonight.
Oh, okay.
But what's the question?
Well,
with it?
I'm still a little unclear as to their schedule for this. And so I just wanted to make sure that we're all clear, you know, we're moving as fast as we can
Yeah.
with the sewer.
Yeah.
If they should decide to go ahead and build and put a septic system in so that
Yeah.
they can get started,
Yeah,
that is entirely their cost and their decision.
they understand.
And so if at some time, if we do this, they hook up to the sewer,
Yeah,
you know, the dismantling or whatever of the septic is also their responsibility.
they have
There should be
sent
no, claim coming back to the town.
no claim. In fact, they've sent communication that they understand it's mandatory for them to hook up.
I saw that, which is great,
Yeah.
and they get that. I just want to make sure that, having been on the planning board for years, people would come back and say, oh, there's sunk costs, I've got it, I should be able to use it.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be the situation.
Right.
I want to just make sure.
Mandatory hookup.
Will that be indicated on the approved plan, or?
It should be a condition.
Well, wait, I mean, just for clarification, because I want to make sure we're not getting confused. We're moving forward really quickly with getting this extension. But God forbid it doesn't come to pass, they're still allowed, as Christine said, they're allowed to use an individual septic.
Sure.
Once we adopt and
Yes.
once we see our sewer district law, it will require everyone in that, all those 50 property owners, mandatory hookup in those districts, the TND districts. So that will be,
Right,
it
so
will
in
be
answer
codified
to,
by
I think
law.
what Julia was asking was on final site plan approval from the planning board, it will include a note or a condition that mandatory hookup is required when the sewer becomes available.
Exactly, okay. So let's make sure that any approved plans are that kind of language is on the approval resolution. But we do have that communication from them that they know that. And our time frame is, I think we're still on track for having a draft of the sewer district use law for the first meeting, we hope, of September, calling a public hearing for the second meeting, and then conceivably could adopt it if it were in final form. And of course, that may be optimistic, but doable. Okay, good. Clarified. Does that make you want to second that motion to close the public hearing?
Okay, I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. All right, so let's take up these applications, and we might as well start with Red Hook Land Corp. And again, referencing updated July 22nd. For folks who aren't familiar with this property, this is the property that burned down shortly after I started as town supervisor in 2016, so it's been vacant for years now.
In front of the movie theater.
Yeah, by the movie theater, that corner there, so it will be nice to see something get built and something that hopefully is contributing to the concept of the traditional neighborhood. So we have our comments from our engineer on this application.
I just have one in the now therefore be it resolved
Yes,
section
ma'am.
on number 1.
Yes.
In the, it says, subject to final site plan, I think that's probably supposed to say site plan approval,
Right,
including mandatory connection, so,
right.
so I think we just need to add approval.
Okay. Does that sound good, folks? Okay. As amended by Councilperson Kane. Now therefore be it resolved site plan approval. And this is resolution number 75. Would you like to so move, Kristen?
Okay, sure.
I'll second. Second by Matt. Further
Well, before you vote, do you want a reference to the July 22nd application of the resolution? Because it's not referenced.
Yeah, it should reference the July 22nd.
So maybe the third whereas was received on April 4th and
amended.
revised
And revised, sure.
July 22nd?
And a revised, with the revised submission on July 22nd. I don't know the date of the revision, I just know that it was sent in by Tim on the 22nd.
Okay, so
Not to get
received
too
on April
technical.
24th and a revised submission received on July 22nd,
Yep. Yeah, a revised submission dated, yeah.
dated July 22nd.
Sent.
I like received on.
Received.
Received? Okay.
Yeah, that's the date we got it, so.
Okay, revised twice now, resolution number 75, amended. We're with a motion by Christine, would you revise and,
Yes,
Move.
I'd make a motion that we vote on the twice revised resolution.
okay, twice second. Further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. The next one is the Kent application, and folks, I'm actually going to recuse myself on this one. Mr. Kent is a neighbor of mine. The wetland is on, I believe, my property with my wife, so if it's okay with you, I'm going to step out of the room for a few minutes. Bill, would you mind? Sure.
So in this matter, on this matter, Mr. Kent had been requested to provide some additional information, drawings and other things that made it clear exactly what he wanted to do. We finally got all that information from him, and Ty and Bond, our engineer, reviewed that, and yesterday issued a memo. He has a house, there is a house there, and he wants to put like an addition. And according to Ty and Bond's review, they don't have any objection to approving the waiver based on all the information that was provided. And therefore, I'm going to move that we approve this waiver. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
And this is resolution number
Say
76?
six. Sorry.
This one, confirm.
I'm sure I'd be concerned that you were more efficient when I wasn't around.
It's going to be a long day.
Very good, thank you. We are now moving on to agenda item 2, which simply,
There's one other item.
What about M&T?
M&T.
oh, sorry, yeah, we have M&T now. My apologies. So we need to set a public hearing on this one. We received the submission, so that would be for our September 10th meeting. And there is our resolution. This would be resolution number 77, dated August 28th. Calling for a public hearing. For the folks at home, this application is simply a change in landscaping, parking, some steps, some exterior, nothing that would affect septic, but nonetheless is required because it's a change in the site plan. So we have our resolution 77, calling for the public hearing on the 10th. Why don't we have it for 7:35? And it needs to be published in the official newspaper on or before
September 10th. I mean, September 1st.
September 1st. Before September 1st. Okay, fill in those 2 blanks. 10th at 7:35 as amended, and I so move resolution number 77.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Very good. Okay. Thank you, folks. You can tell I'm eager to get to the rest of the agenda. Number 2, we just very briefly spoke about one of the requirements, obviously, when you're forming a sewer district, is you need a sewer district use law, and you need to put it out to the public for comment, and in particular for those property owners, and it essentially regulates the, not necessarily creation, but certainly the maintenance and other issues associated with a sewer district. In our case, it's an extension, and so it's a little more complicated because we're working with the village on an existing system, so there's going to be some coordination and collaboration. They'll review the language, and their engineer, our engineer, just make sure that, you know, we've got a really good first cut of this. Obviously, it can be amended in the future. There's going to be plenty of time before the sewer gets built if we need to make some amendments. But, you know, let's give it a good go. So hopefully we'll get comments back in time that we can have this on the agenda for the 10th. I guess that gives us a couple weeks. And then put it out for input from the public. So that's that item. We can go right into a resolution authorizing. Okay, so Greenway grant, we spoke about this. So for the folks at home, just as a reminder, we've already applied to Parks for $500,000. We anticipate that this bridge that'll connect to Cookingham Farm Trails to the rec park should be somewhere around $1 million. We are now looking to Greenway to give us some design and engineering funding to get started. That application is due on the 6th, so essentially a little more than a week for us to apply for that. It's a 50-50 match, but will really put us in a good place if we were to get the parks funding. We'll at least have that underway, if not completed. So the Greenway Trail grants, the maximum we can get is $75,000. We believe that design and engineering could be somewhere in the neighborhood of $180,000. Of course, we won't really know that until we dig into that a little bit deeper. But just so you know, once we do this, it opens up the possibility of getting some construction funding through Greenway. You got $250,000 that you could then apply for. So that would be obviously a logical next step. So eager to get started on that, because at best that's a 2025 thing, the bridge. And more realistically, it could be 2026.
Right, just to clarify, this is, it's a bridge over the Saco Creek, so it is a substantial
Yes.
project. So I mean, you might say, well, why is a bridge $500,000
Right.
to connect some trails, but it's
Or
not.
$1 million, $500,000.
No, right, exactly, $1 million, right.
Yeah.
So, it's a substantial project.
Yeah.
One of the things we're still looking at is we might want it to support maintenance vehicles.
Yeah.
So it's got to be wider than just a pedestrian bridge and
Yeah.
built more sturdily
Yeah.
than that.
Yeah,
And, we have seen flooding
yeah,
twice now in the Saltkill Creek that has washed away large portions of the walking path existing, or that did exist and had to be repaired
yeah.
in the existing rec park east. So, it has to span quite a distance to
It
get,
does.
anchored, and the
Yeah.
stability and such that's required.
I think DEC requires maybe 30 feet on each side.
Right, exactly. So
Um,
it's not a
It's
little
also,
project.
it requires Army Corps of Engineer approval because it's a federal wetland as well.
Exactly,
Sure,
right.
sure.
So just to clarify, I mean, it's
Yeah.
a major project.
And it will allow for overtopping and all of those things, so we might be looking at an aluminum bridge, which
Right.
allows
Exactly.
for that.
Yeah.
Um,
But it would, connect Cookingham East, Cookingham West, Abrams Park, as we talked earlier with the village, to the Rec Park East, across now to Rec Park West, and all the trails that are being developed all the way
All
over
the
to
Salt
Tivoli.
Hill-
Right,
all
all
the
the
Salt
Salt
Hill
Hill
Trail
trails. So,
To get to the Empire State
it's a
Trail.
very key, right, it's a very key piece of that trail system.
We're just a few bridge, couple of boardwalks away from being able to walk from the village of Red Hook all the way to Tivoli
Or ride a bike.
or ride a bike. And that's I think that Kenny referenced some of the trail improvements that are being done, by the way, to existing gravel roads, paths that.
Yeah, it is good, actually, that's a good point, because there's an existing road on Cookingham West,
Yeah,
which provides access to a private home
yeah.
and the water plant that's down there. So, that's a road that was already there.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. But with the work that's being done, and by the way, we hope in the next couple of weeks, the majority of the work will be done. We're just waiting for some gates. There'll be gates to go, for the farm to go in and out of the various areas with these. And we'll be able to open those portion of the trails. It'll be very exciting. The stone dust, the work is looking terrific. The fence, split rail. I think we did hear about how that might not be great for a farmer, at least for this particular farmer, speaking on the topic. I might beg to differ and say there would be lots of farmers interested in having fencing, much of the fencing already constructed that will delineate and keep the public off of the farmland. As somebody who's spent a ton of money on fences to keep our livestock in, it's gonna be a benefit to a significant amount of folks to protect either their crop or their livestock or so on and so forth. So,
Yeah, this is gonna be a much different park than any parks we've had before, and very many parks in the area
Yeah,
with a lot of different uses. There is going to be vehicle traffic because of the house that's there, the water plant. It's not going to be, huge, but there is going to be
Yeah.
vehicular traffic, and then there's going to be pedestrian traffic and cycling
Bikes,
traffic, and then the agricultural traffic.
yeah,
So we're beginning to look at guidelines for access and use and whatnot on this property, so everybody should be prepared that there may be different guidelines for use and restrictions perhaps on times or access and types of use that would not apply to other town parks.
yeah. Yeah, I think
We don't
setting-
know yet, but
Yeah, setting expectations, it's not gonna be the perfect trail, it's not gonna be the perfect farm, it's not gonna be the perfect community solar location. But it is going to meet those objectives as much as it can, and having all of those public purposes co-located on Cookingham, and really it's being used as a model now, the Cookingham project, especially including the affordable housing workforce development project on the east side. Not to mention water protection, drinking water. I think, Kenny did mention spraying, but didn't mention that our water treatment facility is there.
And our
And
wells.
so, wells, and so water protection, is obviously something that we have to care about. We have hundreds of homes connected to the water district. And so, yeah, it's a challenge to fit all of that in and do it 100% perfectly, but I think that, most folks will be very pleased when they see how the project turns out. And certainly, our trail network is just a couple years away from being legendary. I mean, this is going to be just, and complete. And complete. I mean, it's really amazing how many miles it's going to, I mean, just on this side, we're talking about a couple of miles on this one property.
One thing to point out is that I've heard complaints from people who want to use Abrams Park or other park. They want to drive, there's no place to park their car. There's plenty of parking at the rec park, and it will allow people to come from places that maybe it's too far, you're not in the village, but you want to use these facilities. You can drive, you can park, and then you can access all these parks in that way, right? It ultimately will create a cohesive, without having to deal with the vehicle problem,
Yeah.
because that's already addressed.
Yeah, no, it's very exciting. So yes, biking, shoring up those already existing farm paths. Did I emphasize that? Already existing. Just to remind folks, every acre that had been farmed on Cookingham on both the west and the east side is permanently protected. These other activities are not using any of the farmland that was actively being farmed. Okay, so do we have a resolution?
You have to fill in estimated project cost.
Yes, so that was the 180,000 that I referenced. And so let's include that. This is now Resolution 78, authorizing the submission of an application for a Greenway grant for design of Southborough pedestrian bridge, and I so move if that's okay with you all.
Second?
You're gonna have like 4 people who want second.
You notice how Christine is eager with that second.
I'm recreation.
She's I
am the liaison for recreation.
And Charles, yeah.
don't like to disclose anything personal about the council people, but Christine likes to hike. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
So that's good.
Mr. Supervisor?
Yes,
So I'm sorry
ma'am.
to interrupt, but I'm asking us to go back to resolution number 77.
Yes.
I spoke with Deanna, and she doesn't think she can, because of the
It
holiday.
needs to be the 31st, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yes.
I didn't think about the holiday, but Deanna, rightfully
Holiday.
said.
It needs to be the 31st.
Yeah.
So no later than August 31st.
Well, are you
May-
gonna, I think the issue is the posting.
In the Poughkeepsie
in the
Journal.
Poughkeepsie Journal because it has a
Won't get posted
lag.
until the second.
It's not gonna get posted till after the holiday, and then legally you need 10 days. So I think we're gonna have to push it to the second meeting.
Oh, wait, this first meeting's September the 10th, correct?
Well, you need 10 days.
Oh, 10 full, you
Yeah.
can't have it on the 10th day.
Well, it won't be
You're
posted on the
You're
first.
talking about M&T?
M&T, yeah.
It'll be one
Oh,
day
wait, it's
short.
Wednesday, they can get this done by Saturday.
Have it posted in the Poughkeepsie Journal?
Yeah,
Can try.
yeah. Let's stick with it,
They
and if
have
it doesn't
different
work, it doesn't
schedules for
work.
holidays,
Yeah.
that's
Okay,
fine.
we can
Yeah.
always renotice it if needed.
Yeah,
I just don't want to say I can.
No,
yeah,
understood.
that's
Okay,
fine.
I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Yeah. Well, the date should read August 31st. So
Okay.
Cassie, if it's okay with you, can we finish resolution 78? We'll go back to 77 and make that slight correction. Okay. Resolution 78, which Christine did not second.
I already died, so we're good.
I did second.
I
Yes,
thought you
Second.
voted.
Too late.
yes, you
Okay.
voted.
All in favor? Jacob, Julia, Bill. Okay. Going back to resolution 77, can we make that change? The posting needs to be by
On
the 31st of August, okay? That minor change, and I so move. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
And
All right,
If for
let's-
some reason that timing is not practical, then we can just renotice it for the second meeting.
Yep.
Yeah, that's, we'll just deal with it at the next meeting. It's fine.
They'll get it done. They're the Poughkeepsie Journal.
What'd you say, Bob? What's the intention?
Okay, we have an addendum to our Aspen Wall. Don't get confused, this also runs through many parts of our town. As you know, we have Bridge New York funding to replace the bridge, the Salto Bridge on Aspen Wall. We have had our public information sessions, got good feedback. I think we've got a really good compromise, a solution to retain the characteristics of the stone and let the water overtop the bridge, which has been an issue. We have to make a slight addendum because we realize that we need right-of-way for a third property, and that's why we have this addendum. So we have two things to take care of. One is seeker related, that seems to be the first resolution we have up, which is a determination of non-significance of the bridge replacement project. We circulated on this and received our comments. Here's DEC. They did have a couple of suggestions, rather technical. We have already reviewed our part one and part two. Again, this is for the purposes of replacing an existing bridge. Okay, and you see in part two, no or small impacts may occur. There's no objection to the town acting as lead agency. Any questions about part two before I move on? Okay. Hearing none, we have a draft neg deck. Not dated, we should date it today. Just so you know, this is a federal project, so the state which handles these also has their environmental approval process that they go through, the documents of which are also attached. And there are approval of worksheets, which you'll authorize, I believe, in the resolution, right, Cassie? We have language that will authorize the signing of those as well?
Yes,
Okay.
in the resolution.
So we're on 79. Any questions before we entertain this? Resolution adopting a secret determination of non-significance for the New York State DOT Sauk Hill Bridge Replacement Project. A 42-foot span, 26-foot wide, three-sided precast concrete structure. And the whereases. And the town board hereby adopts a negative declaration in the form attached and determines that the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. And in fact, we believe that it will help because the bridge will be constructed in a way that will not only withhold better when there are floods, but also be constructed in such a way that there'll be less erosion. Okay, 79, it's water. It's a bridge, who wants to move it?
So moved.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Jacob. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. And that was secret. Now we need to do the engineering contract. Okay. And that.
$15,000.
Where are we?
It's further, keep going.
Keep going.
No, up.
No, it's up.
They went backwards.
There it is. Addendum number 1. Okay, article compensation, attachment. This relates to the right-of-way work that needs to be done, not on 2 properties, but on 3 properties. Okay. There's the letter from our engineers. Supplemental funding. Any questions? Did we have a separate resolution?
Yeah, it's right before the letters to go out.
There it is.
Yep.
Number 80, approving engineering contract addendum number 1 between the town of Redmond and Hudson Valley Engineering Associates. An increase not to exceed amount, $282,000.
But it's an increase of $15,000.
Right.
That's what the request is.
Increase is $15,000 to $282,000.
To cap it at that too.
Who would like to move it?
So moved.
Thank you, Jane. Who would like to second it, Julie? So moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Moving right along, we have a 30-day temporary waiver request that relates to serving of alcohol at Parkhurst. And Parkhurst is, Jacob, that's the...
Yeah, I'm about to recuse myself.
Oh, you
because
are?
one of the applicants is my employer.
Oh,
But
okay.
Parkhurst is the vendor for food services at Mark College.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Would you like
So
to
that's when
recuse
I
yourself?
recuse myself because
Okay.
of what I said.
We know where to find you. Okay, so please let the record show that councilperson Testa has left the room. Where are we with this application? Essentially, they have events where they serve alcohol. It sounds like not on a regular basis,
Like the graduation,
that kind of thing. But they're required
They're asking for a catering liquor.
a catering liquor.
So they can do it themselves instead of having to bring someone else in to do it.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
And the application requires a 30-day notice
Right.
to the municipality. So they're asking us to waive the 30-day notice.
I'm okay with that. We know that.
They're already serving alcohol, they just want to change the way who's doing it.
Who's doing it,
That's right.
So do we need to approve two things then? Do we need to approve the waiver of the 30 days and the permit itself, or how does it work?
No, we just have to approve the waiver
Waiver.
so that they can attach that when they put their permit in, and then it gets immediately reviewed instead
Yeah.
of waiting 30 days before it gets reviewed.
Yeah, we handle nothing with alcohol, essentially. We get notice on licenses, right? Any question?
No, so is this a consensus thing, or, because we don't have a resolution?
We should make, I think, a motion, just
Yeah,
formally
I-
with it, if you choose to do so.
We can do it verbally though.
Yeah, motion verbally, motion means verbal.
Yep. Who'd like to do that? Former Bard College graduate, could do, or you're not sure?
I can do it.
You can do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I move to waive the 30-day notice requirement for their, they keep changing the name.
Parkhurst.
Parkhurst. They keep changing the vendor.
Okay. 30-day notice, okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Julia. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, Christine?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jacob. You're welcome to join us in our schools. Okay. Okay, so we're ready to go out to do the solicit bids on St. Margaret's on the accessibility improvements. This is for the access, the ramp, all of that exterior work. We're finished with the bathrooms and the like.
Excuse me?
Yes, yes,
I'd like-
ma'am.
I apologize, it's been that kind of night. Going back to the big deck, before you move on, for the Sawkill pedestrian bridge.
We want language for the FEAF, right?
Yeah, for the, well, it's not in the NIG deck, the execution of the DOT phase approval.
Yeah. So let's do that. Okay, we can do that. Folks, will you authorize me to sign the FEAF documents that were included? with-
Well, it's more that,
We have to add.
yeah, well, I guess you could do it by motion.
No, just by motion,
Yeah.
that's all.
Sure. I make a motion that.
Well, you have to authorize the DOT approval, not the FEIF, that's what I think.
Right, the DOT approval, right. But it's the FEAF documents
No, it's
and
not
the
the-
approval.
So, the resolution was fine for the FEIF.
Oh, it included the FEAF.
Yeah, so I'm
Okay.
talking about the DOT phase
Fine,
approval.
okay,
So you could do a motion to authorize the DOT phase approval.
okay. Let's do that.
Okay, what she said.
Yes,
Christine
it's
just
not
said
in the
that.
FEIF, it wasn't included.
So
Okay.
we're gonna authorize the supervisor
To sign the DOT phase approval.
Okay,
Aye.
and myself, aye. Thank you. Okay, we're back.
Okay, back to St. Margaret's.
St. Margaret's, so RFP on the work. We'll get the final specs on that.
Alright, so, just because we switched and we went back to a different thing, I think you were explaining, this is the resolution
Yes.
to go out to bid.
To go out to bid on the accessibility improvements, and it relates to the ramp, the parking, and all of that, the exterior work, grant funded, the
And money's already in
CDBG.
hand, right?
Grant funding is already, well, it's already in
Committed.
place, it's already committed.
It's approved.
Approved. And by the way, the floors are all done, spectacular. The place is looking amazing. The plaster walls, I mean, I think people are gonna be very excited when they see the state of the building. So this is really kind of the last piece of this puzzle. How many years in the making we've had St. Margaret's? and it had not been worked on inside. Okay. So let's do it. Let's authorize with resolution. Are we at 82, Deanna?
So it was 81.
Yeah,
Yeah, because we motioned something.
yeah, 81.
81. Dated August 28th, authorizing the solicitation of proposal. No, that's not it. Authorizing solicitation of bids for St. Margaret's accessibility improvements. I so move.
Second.
Okay, and this is for fiscal year 2023 CDBG grant. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's been noticed. Okay, and the link to the bidding documents?
Excuse me, can you repeat the motion and the second?
Sure.
I was the second.
Yeah, I think I agree.
Okay, you made
Yeah.
it.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. We're all on board tonight. You would think that we're new at this.
We're both getting,
We're both getting, would you mind unmuting Chris?
yeah, Chris, yeah.
So she's wanted to interject him.
It was the background noise for,
Are you getting messages?
we can, yeah, it was the background noise we had on YouTube.
Okay, well, what you were looking to do following the secret is to move to have the board authorize you to sign the design approval for the bridge. That is the step that DOT needs you to
Yes.
do.
Yes, we did,
We did that.
we just did
No,
that.
you didn't, you talked about the EAF, that's not what we're talking about.
No, but we just did it 2 minutes ago.
They moved to authorize DOT approval phase signature, not the EAF.
I'm talking about the design approval request memo.
Yes,
That's a different step than secret, it has to follow
we
secret.
understand that,
We
we
did
just did
that.
that. We understand that, we did
We
the
went back
secret
and
first,
did it.
we went back and did it just 2 minutes ago.
Okay, I heard you say approval EAF, and that's not what you
No.
need to do.
Gotcha,
Okay.
okay.
DOT sign.
All right, we're now at, going out to bid for, looking for proposals for the inspection of the water storage standpipe and sediment removal. Bill, you want to just quickly explain to the public what we're doing? What the water district wants us to do?
Well, the condition of our tank, the water tank, as we've discussed many times, is getting old, and the water board, is always the debate, do you replace the tank or do you basically repaint it, rebuild it? And since replacing the tank is about 4 or 5 times more expensive, they have decided they would prefer to go with the route of repainting. However, to do that, special kind of engineering firm has to conduct an inspection of the exterior and interior of the tank. And because the steel that was used back then, and the fact that there's water in there and you can have corrosion and all kinds of other issues, the purpose of this inspection, for the interior, a diver goes in, the scuba diver goes in, sort of rappels underwater, and then they take a movie of the inside, and then they determine what that condition of that steel is and whether it needs, I guess the best way to describe it is like it's a special kind of spackle, but what it would take if it's problematic. And then the exterior, in the spec here, it talks about the various different things that they would do. And then they provide a recommendation based on that of, what the cost would be to repaint and doing all the work versus a replacement.
Once the inspection's complete.
Yeah, and so they would like to get the inspection done by the end of the calendar year. I just came from the water board meeting and discussed with them the timeline that they had proposed. And they agreed to, instead of have a closing date on an RFP of being October 15th, as it's stated, to change it to September 30th. And they feel that would be an adequate amount of time. That's a Monday.
Okay, so they do want to try to get it done.
To get the
this year, right?
inspection
Okay,
done.
because that was, The dates didn't seem to,
The only issue, for a diver to go, and they also have robots that do it, but the diver's really the best way, is, there is sediment in the tank, there's things, because there's a turbine that helps keep the water. They have to basically let it all settle, and, the issue is, will there be a interruption of service? They seem to think there won't be because there's adequate pressure to do that. So, but they would rather have it done sooner rather than later so that they can make a decision, and come back to us, the town board, by the end of the year.
okay, so
So do we need to revise that?
we do, we need
Yes.
to revise
Yep.
the return date, instead of October 15th to September 30th. And whoever figures out what page that's on wins the prize.
It's on page 1 of the actual, the request for proposal
Yeah,
is.
so 11 a.m. on, let's change that to September 30th, 2024, instead of October 15th. Let's also date the RFP for tomorrow, let's say.
If you just scroll up
So-
the page, she'll get
So
This is, yeah. 'cause this-
September 30th at 11 a.m.
September 30th, yeah, and that'll give folks, essentially a whole month. Should be plenty of time.
And then August 29th on page 1 of the.
And August 29th at top. I think that should be dated when it goes out.
It's ready to go, and then there's all the.
Yeah.
We can revise the RFP, but what has to be revised is the board resolution refers to
Right.
that date. So the board resolution is what the board should change. Okay?
Okay. It's,
So now there be resolved, the last sentence should be changed to September 30th.
and with bids to
2024.
be received until, this is a resolution 82, received until, did it say 10 o'clock or 11?
It says
11.
11 a.m.
But wait a second, what does the RFP say?
11.
11.
Oh, it does say 11, okay. I thought it said 10. Okay. Well, with, as amended, resolution 82, would the water board liaison like to move that?
I would like to move that.
Anybody else? Okay, we've got Christine who has seconded so many things tonight. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Be interested to see how these come out, and you've offered to dive in there and.
No. I'll watch.
In connection with that, we have our request from the board. Did it make it to the back end?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it's before.
Well, on the agenda it's before, but
Yeah, in the packets it's after.
in the packets after, I think.
Will you get dizzy watching from home?
Here it goes.
Okay. Multi-year, 5-year, 5% increases in order to try to prevent a large expense. When the time comes, should they decide to paint, keep those reserves. We have a resolution number 83. You can see there's no space for it. Establishing a date for a public hearing regarding water rates and charges for Water District Number 1. The proposed schedule attached here too, a 5% increase. Let's go ahead and set this also for September 10th. We've already taken the 7:35 slot, may we do 7:45, folks? Works for you? Okay. Resolution number 80, what did I say, 82 or 83? 83. Thank you for holding up the fingers. And I so move. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're moving right along. On reorg, we had a request, an interested person to join that committee. trails, and our trail chairperson, Lisa Whalen, is asking us to approve that. And that is for Linda.
Oh, we've done that, but okay. We must have missed
We
it.
had the letter, and this is for a 2-year term ending in 2025. And
Right, because she's filling an unexpired term.
unexpired term.
So moved.
Thank you. Would like to second that?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. We are at the exciting portion of the evening where we get to hear what others are doing, our terrific employees and many volunteers. We've got some reports tonight, so let's go with our very busy building and zoning, shall we? William, would you please?
So for the period of August, we still have a couple days left, but from August 1st, the Building and Zoning Department issued 45 permits. They conducted 113 inspections. It's been very busy this summer. They issued 23 either certificates of occupancy or completion. They received 1 complaint, and the revenue for the month was $22,894. And I'd like to point out, as I have the last 2 times, that while there were concerns expressed back in March when we were proposing the moratorium that it would somehow shut down business and nothing would get built, this has actually been a record year. I think it's probably been the busiest year in a generation in terms of the amount of permits issued, the amount of revenue generated, and the amount of building that's been conducted. So, and bravo to our team, who have been very, very busy.
Yeah, I think I calculated that this Red Hook Land Court that we just approved tonight was the only application that had any delay, and that was a matter of weeks, because as we referenced it, their site plan revised came in on July 22nd, and here they are, approval for their waiver. So, yeah, very busy. If you, maybe I should bring that chart back for next month so people can see just the amount of construction happening. The 2 charts are really what we'd like them to see, is the amount of preservation that's happening in the green space and the amount of development that is happening in either already developed areas or in the centers, as according to the centers in green space vision. So we're firing on both cylinders, if you will. There is a very lengthy list, as there always is, of permits for folks to look at if you are interested. And Bill, since I know you're a former law enforcement officer, you probably want to do this report too.
I'll make it quick. So we do contract our police services from the Village Police Department, and for the month of July, they reported, the summer's always very busy for a variety of reasons. They had 97 incidents or calls that they made in the town, and they also they do services for the village of Tivoli as well, and they had 17 there. They issued 12 traffic tickets, no parking tickets, and they actually made 4 arrests. The report itself is self-explanatory by category, various different types of calls that they go on, whether it's a burglary or criminal mischief or larceny or whatever. People they're locked out of their house, locked out of their car. There's parking issues. There's certainly always a number of medical emergencies, because they are often the very first responders, as well as the road hazards, which as a continuation in July, we had some storms and trees came down, and they are the ones that come and try to
Let's close the road
roads.
so people are safe.
Yeah, they don't get electrocuted.
Absolutely.
So, and if there's ever any questions, and there's always a long list of, this one's a little shorter than usual, of welfare checks, and I like to remind the public that people often will call the police if they can't get in touch with a loved one or family member, and they will go and knock on the door and check on the welfare of a person there. And it's a service that they provide, and they've actually saved a few people's lives because they showed up and someone's unconscious, maybe they had a seizure, whatever it was, and they truly were the first responders. So they perform a litany of services, all of which I'm quite appreciative of.
Well, they are our safety officers, and I was very happy to see that they have something that's going to make them safer. They just acquired the safest car on the road, an all-EV, fastest production car, so they we don't want any speed chasing in our community. But they have their first electric vehicle, and I was really pleased to see that last week, all lettered up and I think ready to go.
It's been delivered?
It's been delivered, and very exciting as those of you who are following the transition to a more sustainable transportation system. You're now seeing communities, convert from having fossil fuel vehicles to, in the case of the village of Red Hook, it's one vehicle perhaps at a time, but you're starting to see cities now just completely turn over because, as evidenced by Consumer Reports and other type of entities, now they've proven themselves to be so cost effective because I think we calculated it was something like $8 to go 200 miles in an EV as far as electricity, where it's 20-something upwards to, gosh only knows what, for a Hummer.
Well, the servicing
Yes,
and the
diesel
servicing is a big
That's
deal.
one of the beauty is you're never in there getting that oil change or the 1,500 other parts. that
They
go
got a
along.
grant. You assisted
did.
them to help pay for it? 'Cause it's not
They
a
did
cheap
it
car.
all on their own.
Oh, they did that on their own?
All on their own. I
Good for
mean,
them.
we may have been talking about these for the last few years, but they did it all on their own. All the credit belongs to the Red Hook Police and the village.
And I can say, before I retired from the federal government, we were converting, we were doing a third of our fleet per year, and we had done 2/3 of our fleet into fully electric cars. And I can't tell you how much the officers loved those cars.
Yeah.
They're quiet, they're very fast, they're very efficient, and you're not constantly having to schedule servicings, which are more complicated for a police vehicle than
Right.
for a regular vehicle.
To be offline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and more expensive to do.
Yeah. Very exciting. Congratulations, Village of Red Hook and Red Hook Police. Okay. Christine Kane has offered not to do the rec commission report.
That's not true. And it's short this time. Right?
Yeah, right.
Okay. So most of the summer programs are either over or will be ending soon. There is an evaluation form available on the town website, redhookny.gov. So if you did participate or your children participated in the summer programs, please consider going to the website and filling that form out to submit it so we can get feedback. Recent repairs to the pickleball courts are complete now, and that means the next place that needs repairs is the skate park. So there is a plan to try to do repairs to see if that will work before, so hopefully we can avoid a much larger cost of bringing in a contractor. Mowing has been a problem with a lot of the rain and lingering wetness. So there is some catching up to do there. As I mentioned, so men's basketball league is almost done. Men's softball league still continues, and softball, Red Hook softball. You might remember that I've been mentioning for a long time that we were waiting for the arrival of acoustic panels
Yes.
to install by the skate park to help block the sound. So they were finally delivered. Unfortunately, during the delivery, something happened with the truck and all of them were flipped off onto the ground. As far as we can tell, none of the panels were damaged, but they all had to be moved by hand from there into the shed until they can be installed. And just, you know, I said, just to put these up, we had to get, so John had to go and get 1,000 zip ties. So it's a lot of, you know, hand connecting to get that done.
It is finished, by the way.
Oh, are they up?
They're up.
Okay, oh, good, all
They're
right,
up.
great. Well, hopefully that's gonna, you know, have the results that we're hoping for.
Yep.
Previously, we had talked, John was looking into having a disc golf course potentially installed and how much that might cost, and that is looking like you're not gonna have that information before the end of this year, so maybe that will move forward again next year. Just one point again for anybody who's going to Rec Park East. We have a drinking fountain near the playground, which apparently continually ends up with sand in it, and we don't really know whether it's just, you know, somehow getting tracked over there or whatever, or if as part of play, things get dumped over there, or people are trying to wash off toys that have been used in the sandbox. But please don't do that. It clogs the whole thing up. It's expensive to try to get it fixed, both in labor and parts. So please just use the drinking fountains for drinking. And the Red Hook Tree Committee, which we'll be hearing more about later, is working with the Rec Park to look at tree planting for Rec Park West. We did get a grant, so we had asked for $15,000 and we got just over $10,000 from New York State Office of Children and Family Services Youth Sports and Education Opportunity Funding. So that's great. And there was a concert scheduled on August 6th, the Rhinebeck Legion Band concert, which was supposed to start at 7 and was canceled because of the forecast for rain, which was good because by 8 o'clock it was pouring. And they continue to do repairs on equipment and long-term planning for needs and equipment inventories. But we are still getting lots and lots of requests for use of the synthetic field at Rec Park East, and we have noticed that many of those requests are from organizations outside of town.
Okay. What do you, C?
That wasn't too bad.
C plus, what does she got for that?
Come on, that's an easy.
That was great.
Yeah.
That was great, okay.
Thank you.
They're going easy on you.
It's so good.
It's hard to read.
And yeah, we're very proud of the fact, we don't know, maybe somebody in the audience does, but we're very proud of the fact that we maintain a free summer camp for families in our community.
Right. And all day.
And for a significant part of the day, and we talk about equity in communities, and certainly having the ability to enroll your kids in something in the summer is important. So, thank you, Christine. You keep working on it, you get it down to 5 minutes.
Well, the rec department is just so busy, I don't
They
think
are
they do it
so
in 5
busy.
minutes.
They are
That's the
so
thing.
busy.
Thank goodness they get everything accomplished that they do.
Must we have a water report? We must.
Every month. They look pretty much the same.
Okay.
There's only a few things to mention. The meters that the meter readers read about your use, the water department started, it's getting very old, let's just put it that way. And the meters have to be replaced at some point in the life cycle. So they're trying to do a certain number every year.
Okay.
And the technology has gotten much better. In fact, some of them are now completely remotely read, so you go on a computer. So what they're trying to do is they're getting they are replacing ones that have to be replaced that are just not functioning so well. And then others are trying to get a bid and a quote to put in another 100 or so. There are 498 homes on the system. So at some point, the goal is to utilize technology so that the meters can be read remotely, the water tank can be managed remotely. They currently have something set up with Cell, but it's not that efficient. And as we move on and make improvements, there are opportunities to make the system run better, smoother, and cheaper actually in the long run.
Right. Less labor intensive.
Exactly. And the other things are all normal kinds of issues they have to deal with. The biofilm buildup. And for example, where it says the biofilm buildup in the tank, the new tanks, and one of the arguments for a new tank is that they have a device in the top which prevents that from happening. So, they have to flush it, and there's things that it actually uses probably more water than we'd like, but we have plenty of water. And then the only other issue is the fire hydrants that are, like Linden Acres and the various developments have their own fire hydrants. And when a fire hydrant is at the end of the street, the sediment builds up at the end and they have to be flushed. Otherwise, it can clog the hydrant, which you don't want. So they've been doing it all summer, and hopefully it'll be done by the end of October. And that's about it.
Good.
Hey, Bill, did you ever hear back from, remember they were going to ask people to do the testing?
They are. So part
Is
of
that
the
still ongoing?
Yeah, it's an EPA requirement of federal law. Part of the meeting I was just in with the water board was the progress. And part of the issue is that any house built 86 or later doesn't need to be done. So they took those out, that, I don't know, it was maybe 100. And it reduces the volume, and then they've received 120 responses, I think, which is pretty good. I mean, the response rate for sampling was about 25%. And then there's sort of a discussion about
How do you get the rest of them?
well, do you need 100% compliance, or will the EPA, and the EPA's guidance, we just were talking about and looking at it, they will allow a certain amount of predictive analysis, but you have to know what your samples are. And part of the issue for our water department is the different developments were done at different times. So the College Park was the earliest and the oldest, and then you have Linden Acres. And so I had suggested, and we talked about it, rather than, they sent them all out letters with the bills, and they got the 120 responses. I said, well, then why don't we just break them up into the oldest of the ones you'd be most concerned about, and see what that response rate was for College Park, because those are the oldest. And my understanding is, from what they got, all the ones in College Park were copper. There hasn't been any, there's only 2 homes on the entire system that were like built in the 20s, and both of those we know are copper because we replaced them. They're on Route 199. So really what we're talking about are developments, and the later the development goes, the less likely you have an issue.
And this is just because this is check for lead pipes.
Lead
You
pipes.
lead, yeah, and
Check for lead pipes.
It's mandatory.
and it's not the lead, not in the home, it's the service pipe that brings the water to the home.
Right.
And that federal law mandates that there can be no lead pipes that deliver water.
Yeah.
Now, what's in your home, we encourage people to have people, if it's an old home, we encourage you to have it checked.
That's a whole different issue.
It's a whole different, that's, on the homeowner, but the law is, this is trying to get an inventory on the service connections.
So if you got that letter, do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and
Follow the directions and check your
And,
pipe.
people have called and we've walked them, or we ask them, do you have a neighbor, a kid, somebody who can come in, take a picture, they do a little scrape it with a key, because usually they're so black, from being underground, but they're all copper. And our understanding is that basically
Our
From its-
community is too new.
is too new, that's really what it is.
Set up a big
And even though there are some places in this country, because I think federal law required, it was 1972 or 73, you can no longer use lead, and we do have homes that were built in the 50s and 60s. In this community, like for the homes that are in College Park, it's one developer who built all the homes, And if you did some of them, and they all come out as copper,
Right.
it's not unreasonable to
To think
assume,
that they all
yeah.
are, right.
So I think we're gonna be all right, and we have a few more months to get it finished, but I appreciate you raising that, Kristen.
Anything more with water?
We have great water.
We have great water. I noticed we're gonna do a PFAS and PFAS test. Right?
Yes.
We're required to before the end of the year.
Yep, they're gonna be done, I think, in September or October. They schedule out the testing of, there's a whole bunch of different tests that have to be done. But we, originally, when the laws were passed on the PFOAs and PFOSs, they had to be done quarterly, and they're very expensive tests. And because we've never had any, not like even the smidgen, and they do have a tolerance that they'll be allowable, we've had 0. We got, last year, they allowed us to do it on an annual basis, and we have no reason to believe it would change, unless there's some massive fire, and because
It's the chemicals.
the chemicals,
Fire
when a fire out can
These are
can
what are
conceive.
called forever chemicals.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
So, but our water is really good, but the whole idea of getting a sewer system is to keep it good.
Yes, right.
So speaking of water testing, there was the communication, I noticed it's not in our packet tonight, from
Yeah.
Sawkill.
Yeah.
Right. So they have those 15 sites that they've been testing. Gee, I don't know how many years, but quite some time. And so they don't necessarily have the funding to continue doing that. They also would like to expand the tests
Right.
to include, speaking of chemicals and water, that whole list of chemicals, and I apologize for the folks at home, I don't have that list. But we'll get it for you for the next meeting, because we won't take any action on it tonight anyway. But the Sawkill Watershed Community Group would like us to consider funding a one-time expansive water test at these 15 sites. They're going to, I think, give us a proposal for changing 1 or 2 of those sites, because they want to check other sort of sensitive areas. And that long list will show the folks at home of all the chemicals, some of which I've not heard of before. I'm not sure what we would do with that information. Somebody will
Well, the
have to walk us
problem is
through all that.
when you are testing, they have panels, but that's, a lot of it's it's sometimes harder to say, we don't want this one, or more expensive to say,
Sure,
we don't
sure.
want this one.
Sure,
This
sure.
is just what this, so I'm sure that list is what is tested for with this type of test.
Each test
Right.
is, what was it,
Not
570
because
or something?
we necessarily think it's in there.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
but yet
through
it
that,
didn't include
we talked
heavy
about
metals
this.
or anything like that, It's
Those cost
amazing.
more to test.
We'll test for that.
Yeah.
But not in it's in the stream, right? It's in the
Yeah,
soft.
they're doing that
This is
actual
the stream, right, yeah.
retesting.
I mean, I'll just throw out there, I read it, I thought it was a worthy idea.
Mhm.
I think sometimes when we undertake projects like this, we tend to do it in partnership. So it sounded like maybe the group has some funding that they could chip in. I wondered whether Bard, I mean, they drink out of the Sawkill, so it might be that they have an interest in chipping in, so I don't know if we could come up with sort of a coalition.
Yeah, it wasn't really clear from their communication whether they were asking us to fund the whole thing, or if it was, because they mentioned being able to test, I think, 4 of
I
15
asked that
sites with
question.
their funding.
I
So
thought
think
they were
that's-
asking us to fund the remaining,
Okay.
all of it.
Yeah, well, that's what I wanted,
It was
that's what
a fairly
I'm sure
pricey-
so that's the
fairly
2/3
pricey.
or whatever that aren't covered by theirs, or, you said you spoke to them, so.
I spoke to them.
But we'll,
Yeah,
so
I
we'll
think-
have time to do some more research before the next meeting.
We will, I'm gonna ask them to let us know if they do have some matching funding.
Right,
I
or
think the total cost was 10,000, not something
is
for
it,
one
do you have
time.
to do all the locations? I mean, what
That
the
is-
stream flow is, do we need to do all of that?
That's a possibility. I think they like the consistency, because we've had these tests over the years at these different locations, so like with many things that you test for, it's all about the change. Have you noticed a change in,
Right.
with the expansion of the chemicals? Do we have trees?
Yep,
Who will protect the trees?
the Tree Preservation Commission. So a few notes from last week's meeting. As Christine spoke about. There's a lot of collaboration between the commission and the rec commission. So the newly planted trees at Rec Park West have been pruned. Phase 1 of the landscaping design for the connector to Rec Park, from Rec Park East to Rec Park West has been approved by the rec commission. 10 trees have been ordered, will be planted along the Andrew Drive this fall. And I'm just going to be continuing work on landscaping ideas for the remainder of the site. In addition to that, an American Redbud has been ordered for a site on Fruitbud Lane, and that's going to be planted this fall as well. There was discussion about the budget for 2024 and 2025. So using the remaining funds for 2024, it's going to include the tree order, fencing, metal stakes, mulch, tree removal on Pitcher Lane. And then the final thing that they spoke about was the tree inventory project. So there's been some research into doing an inventory of the trees in the town. There's some complications with how that works and the time intensiveness of doing some of that work. So committee members are going to reach out to Bard College, which is a tree campus, for input about the best way to handle it.
Jacob, does the tree commission, I asked this question because I saw a story headline this morning, which was quite frightening. It was all about the Canadian fires. Did anybody else see this? That because of the Canadian fires in 2023,
Yeah, last year.
that Canada became the largest emitter absent China, the US, and a third country because of the fire. So when we talk about planting and what we're planting, are they discussing resiliency and fire resistance?
Resiliency is a big thing. We haven't really talked about fire at the meetings that I've been at. A lot of it's been about insects and water and things like that.
Yeah.
So the big thing is
Yeah.
there's a lot of discussion about choosing species that are meant to be resilient and meant to survive, because
Yeah.
we've seen a few things that have been planted not survive after X number of years. So that's definitely a part of the discussion, but I can, sort of pass that along.
I was
as
just
a
curious.
thought,
I mean, we're
right?
not a
Yeah, we-
typical fire
Yeah, we haven't really.
fire risk.
We fortunately haven't had
Two seasons
so
in a
much of
row
that.
with the one, with the caterpillars.
But I think that especially, knowing what and fires aren't that close to us,
Yeah.
but knowing that that does happen, would be good to just be aware of and think
Yeah.
about.
So I was with, on Sunday, I was at the fair twice this last weekend. One Saturday night with family, and then Sunday morning with our New York State Ag Commissioner and our State Senator Michelle Hinchy, who chairs the Agricultural Committee up in Albany. And they were, of course, discussing efforts that they're working on up in Albany as we were touring around. I was introducing them to some of our local young Red Hook residents who had a very successful showing here, by the way. A few kids who actually we sponsored at our farm. But anyway, the focus that they had and they were talking about was all about climate, which really impressed me, and their understanding of the issue, both of them, and just the programs and efforts that they're working on, and incorporating that into funding discussions and trying to get programs, talking about biodigesters and what to do with the gases, and the fact that the reimbursement, biochar did not come up. But what came up was basically what you get for returning, that energy source to the grid is just not, the 6 cents or whatever the kilowatt is just not going to cut, so why aren't we taking, these byproducts? And anyway, I thought it was a really encouraging conversation. It was really very impressive to have them focused on that. Okay, enough. Robert, enough.
Do we,
Yeah, I
are we supposed to be doing anything with this?
So, there's a letter we have before we entertain a motion to go into the training plan. Our two justices are asking us to fund a part-time or two part-time people to assist with sort of backlog and to position themselves to clerks we're talking about here. And to appropriate the funding. Now, we've done this for a few years and they never took advantage of it, and so it came out. I don't yet have a number of what the budget difference would be, and we are moving into budget season, but they're looking for 2024 funding. We would have to do a budget adjustment perhaps. So I don't know that we can really take any action on this, but what's your general impression about the request? 1 or 2 part-time clerks?
Well, the amount of hours that are being requested, I don't think are unreasonable, especially since, you have a continuity of operations issue where you have 2 clerks that are certainly eligible to retire right now if they wanted to. And, you always have to have, appropriate succession planning. And there's a fair amount of training that has to go on from being a clerk of a court. So they're not asking for a ton of hours. I think it's a prudent and wise move. That's my humble opinion.
I agree.
Yeah, well, yes, and we did have it in previously.
Previously, yes.
So we, to have that idea. I guess, I just have some questions. Maybe we just get a little more information about,
Okay.
Bringing someone in for just 5 hours a week.
What will they be doing?
Yeah, how productive is that really? And, would it make more sense to get one person for more hours? So you can really, train somebody? I don't know.
One of
Just a
them
thought.
is employed in another town
Yes, right,
doing
I
this
know that,
work.
yeah.
And then
So it
the other
says-
one is,
Has no experience.
Has no experience
no
as a court
experience.
clerk, right?
the one, I think part of it is getting through the backlog of the files that have been accumulated over the years. So we can certainly get more specific answers to questions.
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear what sort of time period they would anticipate getting through that backlog, and then how much of it is just sort of training for contingency before the clerk decides to retire.
Okay, well, may we pose the questions and try to get the answers and
Yeah,
put this on the
that's-
agenda
yeah.
for next?
Next,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, many thanks. At this time, first of all, thank you all for joining us. I hope you've had an enjoyable summer. I feel like I'm getting what my kids used to call the Sunday scaries, where, the summer is coming to a close.
So now it's the summer scaries.
And it has
Or the
been
fall
beautiful
scaries.
weather, right, the fall scaries. Beautiful weather with the exception of today, which is sticky wicky. But thank you all for joining us tonight. All of the documents that were presented for you and we hope were helpful are available on the town's website and for further review. At this time, I would like to make a motion that we go into attorney-client session. As I think I mentioned earlier, we also anticipate going to an executive session on a real estate matter as well. And so right now, my motion is to go into attorney-client.
So you're not making the motion to go into executive session yet?
Yet.
Okay, and before you used the word material,
Yes.
did you happen to mean substantially?
Substantially, materially.
No, there's distinct difference, and the law calls for a substantial change in the price.
I will use substantial then, material, both. and
But that's
what I'll
only if
cover
do the
myself.
executive session, attorney-client privilege does not matter.
Yeah,
We're going in attorney-client to discuss a different matter.
yeah,
Yes,
different method. Yeah, and then we will come out later, hopefully not too late, but it could be quite a while. We've got a couple things under attorney-client that we have to discuss, so, but yes, substantially
Affect the price.
affected.
Do you think there's a chance you will vote on said contract when you come out?
I think there's a possibility, and if one would like to know, one could inquire later this evening, yes. How's that for non-answer?
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Especially if you have a long drive home.
Okay, motion to go into attorney-client. Is there?
I seconded it.
Thank you.
Aye.
All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.